Josh Girodani.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you're about.
So I have been in the real estate industry since I was 18. I'm now 34. Initially got into being a real estate agent and then title insurance. And the last 3 years I've been flipping and investing in real estate, basically part-time, which has been amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how did you get into real estate? So you said real estate at 18?
Yep. So I got my real estate license when I was 18. So I was working at the time at T-Mobile, fresh out of high school, didn't go to college. And my dad is a real estate broker out in the desert, so Palm Desert. And he had called me, and I actually called him that day and found out my girlfriend at the time was cheating on me, my high school girlfriend.
Nice.
And he's basically like, you should just come out, move out with me, get your real estate license, and get started doing something different. So that day, packed up my shit. I moved out from San Diego, born and raised, moved to Palm Desert, got my real estate license, and then haven't looked back since. I moved back to San Diego, though, after I got my license.
Got it. Okay.
So.
Now, when you were working at T-Mobile, were you doing sales?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sales is, when somebody's going to do well in real estate, if they have a sales background,
Mm-hmm.
especially some kind of very competitive sales like door-to-door or something,
Sure.
their chance of killing it in real estate goes up tremendously. How much of your sales experience helped you when you transitioned from sales to real estate?
Well, it's interesting. I think in the beginning of sales, when I first got into real estate, I felt like I was trying to convince people to purchase something. But then as I've gotten older, I've realized that I'm just trying to find a solution to their problem. So in the beginning, I think I was more on the sales side of, like, when I worked at T-Mobile, we were kiosk sales. So
Yeah.
we were like hollering at people that were
Yep.
walking in the mall and trying to get them to sign up for a phone plan when they probably didn't need it, right? They already had a phone provider.
Yeah.
So with real estate, I kind of looked at it almost the same thing when I was in my younger years,
Yep.
until ultimately I evolved and realized that it wasn't like sales is just the first conversation of solving a problem. So
Right.
the phone calls and the prospecting and all those things were just to basically get to know someone and get in the door.
Right.
Yeah.
So at T-Mobile, so I worked a kiosk in the mall selling cell phone cases when I was young. And that's what got me really good at sales.
Mm-hmm.
And not just sales, like the overcoming objections and stuff like that, but just getting uncomfortable or getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Because when you first start a job like that, especially if you're somebody who is raised with manners, you don't want to yell at people while they're trying to walk by, and it takes some time to get over that. And then you learn to deal with rejection, because most people are like, nah, I'm good. No, they don't want to talk to you. They're trying to avoid you,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I think that that's super powerful. Do you feel like you got out of your comfort zone when you took that job at T-Mobile?
Yes, the job at T-Mobile for sure. I think I had a lot of insecurities going into real estate, being an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And so that was just another problem that I had to overcome. I think sales was one thing. I think that kind of after T-Mobile and making a lot of phone calls while I was a realtor in the beginning stages,
Yeah.
came a little easier because I was already uncomfortable in the things that I was doing before.
Right.
It was then being comfortable in my 18-year-old self, 19-year-old self, trying to show property or going on a listing appointment and having these people trust me to buy or sell a house.
Right.
So that part was a lot harder. So for the longest time, I pretended to be someone different. Always wore a suit and tie.
Yeah.
Wore like fake reading glasses to think that people would think that I was smarter.
Yep.
So now I'm like this every day, like, t-shirt and Vans and jeans. So it became a little bit different as you progress in life, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's part of learning too. And especially when you're young, you want to be accepted. You want to be rich. You want to be seen as somebody who, wherever your insecurities lie, isn't exactly yourself. So when I was younger, I wanted, especially when I was in my early 20s, I needed I craved that attention of people feeling like I was rich. And I spent so much time pretending to be rich, but not actually getting rich,
True. Yep.
So how long did it take you to get to your first deal from when you became a realtor to your first transaction?
Really fast. So back then, I got my first deal from Craigslist.
Nice.
So I was able to market back then. This was 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
Big time foreclosure industry. So my dad was getting bank-owned properties through banks.
REOs?
Yes.
Okay.
So I had access to basically advertising all these deals before you can do, like now you can't do coming soon stuff, but I was able to do those like 2 weeks before they were going on the market. So I would pick up a ton of leads from doing that on Craigslist. And I sold one of his listings back like I think it was maybe 3 months of me having my license.
Got it.
And that was in Palm Desert. It was like $160,000 house. I mean, those days price points were really low.
Yeah.
But first experience, and then
And that's like Palm Springs area, or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, hot out there.
It's really hot out there. We actually just bought a place out there too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Does it have a pool?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't. We're in the process of buying a house in Phoenix, and I feel like you cannot buy a house somewhere that hot without having a pool.
No, you have to have a pool. Yeah.
Yeah. So Palm Desert. So you went from San Diego to Palm Desert, and then back to San Diego.
Yep.
So when you first got into real estate, what were your? Because it seems like you were trying to be somebody you weren't. How long did it take you to realize that you needed to just be yourself? And did you feel like a lot of resistance disappeared when you did that?
So I don't think I was still a realtor when I finally became someone that could have been in my own skin. I think because I was a realtor for 8 years, I think I got out of real estate when I was still in my early 30. No, I was in my 20s still. So I think I was 27 when I got out of real estate. So
Okay.
18 to 27. And then from 27 until now, I've been into title insurance. I think when I got into title insurance, it was maybe after the second year of title insurance where I finally was like, I am who I am.
Sure.
And that's who I'm going to be. And hopefully people like it and not see me as someone different than I am. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So I want to talk about title insurance and stuff. But first, to anybody that's listening to this, you probably, if you're anybody that watches TV, you've probably seen real estate agents on these shows that are wheeling and dealing these multi-million-dollar properties. Now, for you, what do you think that the common misconception is about going into real estate? If somebody's watching this, they're thinking about going into real estate, what's the expectation versus reality of it?
They think it's going to be easy. I think a lot of people think that it's like a get rich, like you can do 1 or 2 sales here and there and like make a living out of it. With San Diego price points, 800,000, you can, sell a few houses if you're a stay-at-home mom. But if you want to make a living out of it, it needs to be a business. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest misconception is that people think they can come in and it looks at it not as a business when it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think they're going to get their real estate license, then all of a sudden, oh, I'm just going to have houses to sell. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Now, I want to be clear. It doesn't mean that it's not. So you mentioned that it's not easy, and I would agree, but I would say it's not easy at the same time, because all you have to do is consistent, predictable work that if you're following somebody else's game plan, if you're following somebody else's routine and their formula that works, it'll typically work for you, right?
Yeah,
even
absolutely.
if you're not that great of an agent. Make more phone calls, have more introductions.
Once you get the proof of concept together and you can start making 10,000 a month, right? Or do 1 sale a month. It's easy to scale then to 2 sales a month. All it takes is small differences in systems and processes. And you can take it from all those coaches, right? But you need the confidence to have the proof of concept first.
Yeah. And I think that's where sales, and for me, I had a background in mall retail sales, but I also had a couple other sales gigs before that, and you really learn like, hey, if I do X, I get this out. So if I just increase X, meaning phone calls or conversations or leads, whatever, you're going to get more out of it. So at what point did you realize, I mean, did your father kind of give you the formula? Did he let you know like, hey, this is what works for me? Or
not really. I think we all have different mentors in our life that we go through phases. I think he was one that got me from like younger 18-year-old self being an idiot to getting myself into a career. And then from the career aspect, it was like I had other mentors after that were different. He's very old school in the way he works, like first one in the office, last one to leave. And I, being how old I was, did not look at things. I was always like, let's work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Right.
And so I've taken things up from every mentor that I've had in different phases of my life, but we didn't see eye to eye when it came to how to run a business. I was looking at things a lot differently. I wanted to spend money on advertising. I wanted to market. I really wanted to grow. And where he was all based on referrals. He's been in the business for so long. So where he didn't need to change a lot in order to grow. Where I was looking to scale something massive.
Yep.
And so when I left Palm Desert to go to San Diego, I had 2 other mentors after that who were like real big producers that built businesses, that had big marketing budgets, where those are the people and made calls, right? They made sales calls and consistently like did open houses and all the things that you're supposed to be doing to grow a business as a realtor.
Got it. Now, what do you think makes somebody successful in real estate?
Action. So I think regardless of the business, you need to take consistent action in everything that you do. If you want to grow something, you can't not work, right? When I say work smarter, not harder, you still need to make consistent phone calls. You still need to have conversations. You still need to spend money on marketing. You need to do social content. You need to do a mixture of everything, but it needs to be a system to where you're doing it the proper way and know how many things you need to do. If you could do it all in 4 hours, then do it in 4 hours.
Right.
But if you can't, then you're going to work a little harder and not smarter. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So real estate investing, let's talk about that. You own some properties and you have a pretty good portfolio.
Yep.
How did you get into real estate investing? You went from being a realtor to working in title and then back to real estate or?
No. So the investing stuff is just, I'm investing in real estate. So I still work in title insurance. I never went back to being a realtor. So title insurance has been the last 7 years. I've just started investing my own money into real estate. So it happened actually only 3 years ago. So actually, I'll even give you a backstory. I'll give you this is a little even deeper.
Sure.
So when I got into title insurance, I was struggling a little bit with real estate. Didn't really loved the traditional side because I was always helping investors. And then when it transitioned into traditional, like mom and pop people wanting to sell and buy a house, it wasn't for me.
Right.
So I had experience with how to find deals for investors, but I, like when I got in title insurance, I bought my first house 4 years ago. I could barely qualify with my credit score. Didn't have like a ton of money saved up. Was like in debt before that, like credit card debt and everything. So I had a fear of using credit, like after all that stuff was paid off.
Yeah.
So when I got the opportunity 3 years ago from a mentor who's mentoring me now in terms of real estate investments, and we're business partners, I would say. And he gave me an opportunity. I found a deal through one of my title partners. A realtor reached out and was like, hey, I needed an investor for this property. So I brought it to a buddy of mine. And he's like, I like it. Josh, do you want to go in on this with me? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what does that look like? How does that work? And he basically told me how much I would have to come in. And I was like, I'm scared, right? Like, it was my first investment. Like, spending that kind of money, that would have been all my savings, and like didn't really know what I was doing in terms of investing in my own like flip. I've already bought my own house, but still having that and giving up my savings would have been scary. So he's like, well, how about I do this? How about I give you equity interest in this deal? So like, cool. What does that look like? He told me. So I forget if it was 20% or whatever it is based on the net profit. So we did that first deal. I netted like $35,000, the first one.
Yep.
All of a sudden, like
how long did that take from
90 days?
Yeah.
Yeah. 90 days.
So 10 grand a month, basically.
Yeah. So that was the stepping stone to now I'm over like 30 plus. Last year was the full, I think my full first year, like full year, like doing it 100%.
Yep.
And I did 13 deals last year, but now I had the ability from doing those first equity interest deals, which were 3 or 4, to stack up $200,000.
Yeah.
To where now I invest in all my deals. Now I don't need investors.
Right.
Now I don't need equity interest. Like that, he allowed me to grow my savings account and make me feel comfortable into investing in real estate. Now I own my own houses. I do myself. So
that's awesome. Well, it sounds like you took a leap of faith.
I did. I think he gave me the opportunity to do that, though. Like, not everyone, like, you meet people and you see people who are successful. Like, let's say, put myself in my 19-year-old self, and I look at someone, I look up to them, and like, they're crushing it, right? Like, they look at you and they see your lead business, and they're like, man, he's doing all this revenue a month. He drives this amazing car. He has this nice watch. He travels all over the place. He's buying these houses, and they look up to you for that. But it's really not that much harder to get to that place. But what if you gave that 19-year-old an opportunity to show them the inside of your company?
Yeah.
That's how I look at that opportunity, because I'm like, man, he showed me how to do this. Like, I could do this now by myself if I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing is, like, you probably will not make it anywhere great without a mentor, I think, or without somebody showing you. It's like, imagine trying to learn how to fly a plane by yourself.
No, it doesn't work.
Probably wouldn't work very well, right? I mean, so if you need a mentor, first, YouTube, right? You can find mentors for free on YouTube. Guys like Alex Hormozy are spitting out absolute gems for free on the internet. But how long did it take you to find a mentor, and what advice do you have somebody who needs a mentor, somebody who's like, fuck, I don't know where to start?
I think that all of mine have just happened through action or through meeting people. So like I would consider my dad as one, like that time that just so happened to have like get me started into real estate.
Right.
And then my second one, when I joined a team in real estate, that was my second one where he had showed me a little bit more of like, hey, this is what grinding means when it comes to being a real estate agent. Like this is what you have to do. These is like the phone calls and the marketing and all this shit.
Right.
And then with title insurance, the person who recruited me into title, who believed in me, he actually hired me, fired me 3 months later, and then rehired me. And then I became like number one in that company at that time.
Yeah.
So it was all of those people, but it wasn't something that I like seeked out to get.
Yeah.
I think those are the wrong way to do it. I think you need to take action first, and you'll meet those right people as you go.
Were you seeking to learn though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's a quote that I love, which sounds a little corny, but it's, let me make sure I don't butcher it, but the quote goes something along the lines of, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, mm-hmm. right? And I remember hearing that when I was younger and being like, that's fucking dumb. What a mm-hmm. dumb quote. But then when I looked at all of my mentors that I got, there were mentors that were ready to mentor me all the time, mm-hmm. that were ready to help me go to the next level, but I just didn't understand it because I wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. One of my biggest mentors, three of them really, but at Beacon Payments, this company that I worked for, Dave and Jerry are the two owners, and then Ryan Howard was my director of sales. Still all very good friends of mine, still mentors of mine. If I had not met them, my life would be everything that I've built my company on is based off stuff that I've learned. Mm-hmm. But I applied at that job. I got out of my comfort zone and I was ready to hit that next level. I just eventually was going to find somebody, right? But so I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't know where to get a mentor. Well, you're probably not acting. You're not, you said action is your word, right? If you're not putting in daily action goals or daily action habits, then you're not going to get to that point. Do you agree?
Yeah. And I think it's hard when you're 18, not knowing what you want to do, right? Because like I'm sure with both of us, like we didn't know what we wanted to do at that period, right? And with you starting your company and with me evolving into different aspects of real estate.
Yep.
But I had to get into something. Right? Like whatever job it was, you just needed to see growth or opportunity in that. And then maybe you can figure out your path from there, and someone could create opportunity through that and a mentor through that. Right. Like you working at a dead end job you're probably not going to find your mentor at your dead end job.
Right. So. Right. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, and also I think when I look at social media, I see a lot of young 20-year-old kids flexing and stunting, right? Acting like there's something they're not. And I get it. I think most men do that in their early 20s, mm-hmm. right? They think they have to be this person. They're afraid to not be. They're afraid to be vulnerable, mm-hmm. all this stuff. It wasn't until I really hit closer to my 30s where I really just detached from that. Like you said, you were wearing the suit, you were doing all of that, and then you kind of detached and you mm-hmm. really just accepted you for who you are, and you're like, hey, take it or leave it. This is who I am.
Sure.
And there's power in that. But I think that a lot of, and again, Dave Selenow, my old boss, told me when I was young, I was probably 20 years old, and he said, listen, your 20s are for learning and your 30s are for earning. Mm-hmm. And I remember being like, yeah, but I'm gonna make all this money when in my 20s. And I did make good money, but I did more learning than anything. Mm-hmm. So I think that once you hit that age of 30, I think you start to mature, but things really change. Did you notice that creeping towards 30?
For sure. I think once I hit 30, it was a little different. You know, I traveled differently. It's like you knew what real money was.
Yeah.
I wasn't in debt at that time. A lot of it was different, and sure, like the mentality portion of it, I think was a lot different. But you evolve. I think there's bigger pain points. Like I went through. Like I still have insecurities as like being a business owner.
Yeah.
Or like now that you go through, like you talk about these kids flexing, like a lot of that stems from insecurities.
100%.
And you know, for me personally, like I had insecurity being called fat. So now I go to the gym all the time and I eat good. Right. And so I had insecurity of being in debt and, you know, going paycheck to paycheck. Now I will never let myself get to that point. So that fuels my job and my career.
Right.
So I think you just realize like those insecurities don't matter. Like the flexing stuff, you have different insecurities as you get older in business, and those drive you to make sure you keep your head on straight.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty good. Yeah, I think insecurities can be a good thing too, because it pushes you to be a better person.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I was always very, very insecure about my body when I was younger, and I think that kept me from getting crazy out of shape. I think that I think sometimes it's a really good thing, but yeah, it's funny how what drives people, and when you start to get older, you can look at younger kids in their 20s and I really see where you are, like why they make the decisions they make.
Totally. I actually randomly got this kid hit me up recently on Instagram and DM me, and he knew someone that I knew that recently was on my podcast, and he is like fresh into college, going to SDSU, and he's trying to get into multifamily investing. So he's prospecting for multifamily investors, learning how like the multifamily game works and how to prospect and how to go after leads. But I sat down with this kid for like 10 or 15 minutes and I'm like, dude, like this is what you should be doing, right? Like this is like someone like this that's 20 years old, that's taking action, that wants to get into a field. Like if you like, for the people listening out there that they want to get into, let's say real estate or be a realtor, reach out to people, like connect with someone, offer free services, or offer to do things or help them, or someone would be willing to take the time as long as you're willing to put in the effort.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
And I didn't need to take the time out of my busy day to like meet with someone for 30 minutes for coffee.
Right.
He just wanted to like pick my brain.
Yeah.
But I left that and I'm like, even my friends that asked me how to do real estate investing, and after we're on like a phone call for an hour and I tell them everything they need to do, they don't do anything about it.
No action. You said action.
Yeah. And I'm like, this 20-year-old kid left and he's texting me afterwards like, hey, what's this, and this? Like, how do I do this? And I'm like, this is what you should be doing. This is how you progress.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people are curious, but I think a lot of people are hesitant to put in the work and commit to something. Like whatever you're going to do, you have to commit to it, and you have to understand it's not going to be an overnight thing, and anything that's going to be good and valuable is not going to be easy, and it's not going to be fast, but damn sure will be valuable if you put the work in.
Absolutely.
So like real estate investing, right? There's so many billionaires made in real estate investing. I think actually real estate is the number one way to become a billionaire, real estate and finance. Is that right?
Real estate, yeah. I think it's business ownership too at some point, yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least to be a millionaire at real estate, for sure. It's probably the easiest way. Yeah. But it doesn't happen fast, right? Like these are things that take, and you can do flips quick. You said you made, 30,000, 35,000 or something in 90 days. But real, especially if you're getting cash flow from properties, that stuff takes a long time and it's not easy. But so many people start these little quick side hustles where they think, oh, I can just build this up and then this, and I can be an Amazon seller. FBA, which I did that too.
Do some day trading. I did that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And not saying you can't do that stuff, but you really have to commit to something and get really good. So when I committed to doing this podcast, I decided I'm all in. I hired a full-time guy, content guy, Carlos. We got good equipment and we're constantly reinvesting back into it. And guess what? I'm doing it forever, no matter what. I'm not stopping. I'm just going to keep going because I know that eventually this thing is going to take off. Right now we have a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 consistent listeners, but it will keep going. Now, if I gave up now and tried to work on something else, well, the whole house of cards falls and now I go and start build something else. Like, doesn't make sense.
And I think the value and what these do, not only for the listeners, but also for you and for other people who come on this podcast, is like a great connection.
Right.
And you have different conversations and different perspectives from people who, I'm sure most of the people on here make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Right. Like over 7 figures. So to gain perspective for the listeners and to meet and connect with people that are like-minded like you that grow businesses, maybe in different facets, it's a special thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I want to circle back because you had mentioned that when people reach out and they, you had somebody reach out, ask for help, and then you spend all this time and then they go. So many people will reach out to me on Messenger or somewhere and they'll say, hey, do you mind if I pick your brain on building a company? Sure, we can talk for a minute. And then we talk for a few minutes and then this is going to be really time intensive. So I say, hey, every Friday I do something called office hours where you can hop on a Zoom call with me. It's completely free. Hop on the Zoom call. It's on Fridays, every Friday. Get on, ask me any questions. I'll answer anything in a group setting. They don't show up. So you can't, if you're going to reach out to somebody, you can't, beggars can't be choosers. So if somebody's willing to give you their time, take it, but also show them that you've put in action, right? So like you said, when the kid reached out to you, he then did an action and then came back to you and had more questions.
Right.
That's somebody that's worth mentoring. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for that one, it was a little different because I knew who he was mentoring under too.
Yep.
And we had already connected. So he used someone's name and I'm like, you know, I'm willing to meet with him over that. Like if anyone was to reach out, I feel like I wouldn't maybe do it. I would jump on a call, but
yeah.
But yes, absolutely. I think there's so much free shit out there to learn, like whatever they want to do or whatever someone wants to do, like whether it's real estate or what you do in terms of, you know, ads or lead generation, whatever it is, there's so much opportunity. And so even coaching, like I'm flying out to Ohio next weekend or this coming weekend. And I paid for a coaching program. It was a 4-week virtual coaching about wholesaling and flipping houses. Every week on Tuesday, 1 hour, one-on-one, not one-on-one. It was a group coaching program. So that is what's gotten me to already 7 figures in 6 months.
Yep.
That $500 coaching program got me to 7 figures, excuse me, this month. So last month I had a $537,000 a month.
How much was the program?
$500.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. So, one thing, I heard somebody say this recently about coaching. They were saying they wanted to be a millionaire, right? They want to make $1 million a year. And there was a coaching program that was $10,000, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And especially for a good coaching program, solid investment. Carlos knows I spent 10 grand to hang out with people for a day to learn from them. Like, and it's worth it. There's an ROI from it. But if somebody says, I want to be a millionaire, but they refuse to go pay $10,000 for coaching or $5,000, right? Let's just say $10,000 for an easy number. They're really missing out on $990,000 a year because they refuse to invest that $10,000. If they really want to make $1 million a year,
right,
but they're not going to invest that $10,000 that'll get them there, they're leaving almost $1 million on the table by not investing in that. You know, imagine if you didn't take that.
I wouldn't be with all the systems and processes because I took that virtual group and I implemented almost every single, not everything, but like at least the majority of stuff that they told you to do because they go through their entire business and they do $10 million a year in flips. They're out in Ohio, so their deals are like, you know, they're doing like 25 deals, 20, 30 deals a month. So big difference. But I implemented all the systems that were within my budget that I could afford, which was like 3 lead generation systems, their CRM and a bunch of stuff. And within, like I said, within the first, 6 months, 8 months from coaching, 6 months of this year, it's 7 figures.
Yeah.
So if someone was to tell me spend $500 and I'll give you $1 million,
yeah,
that's the way I look at things now.
Yeah.
Right? Like spend $10,000 to get $2 million or to get $1 million. You know, I think it's a massive return on your investment. But I was always scared to do that.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. Like I was scared to pay $10,000 to get into a room somewhere.
Yeah.
But I do want to do it now.
Well, there's the saying that rich people get richer and the poor get poorer. And when you focus on scarcity, you get scarcity, right? If you're trying to hold on, even, you know, you make a big thing is when people first start making money, especially if they didn't come from money, like they want to hold on to it. They want to keep it safe. They want to protect it. But the problem is if you're planting trees and you want more trees to grow, but you hold on to the seeds, you're not going to get anything more from it. No. So you reinvesting in yourself is the best. And also, I know what people are thinking. Well, if I'm going to hire a coach, what if the coach is full of shit? Most of them are. There's a lot of coaches that are full of shit, right? Yeah. But if you try 10 coaches out there and only one works, and that one works with a massive payout, it works.
Yeah.
You're investing in those 9 other coaches that didn't work to figure it out. You know,
and I think you can, because especially like within real estate or investing or even real estate agents, like if that's what you're looking to do, there you can find good coaches, you know, like on YouTube, like you can just look up and see if you resonate with those people who you're listening to on YouTube or on their podcasts. Because everyone should have, like if they have a podcast or a YouTube channel and they're a coach, if you resonate with them, try it out. Right. Yeah. And most of the times it's not going to be a crazy investment. Like if you're concerned over $1,000 and someone will write you a check for $10,000 after you're done, if you put in the action, you should do it.
Yeah. Right.
So,
but again, it's on you.
It is.
So many people, whether they're buying leads or they're going to a coaching program or whatever, will buy it, not put the work in that's responsible for them. And then they'll blame the product as it wasn't worth it. Right. Yeah. And it's kind of like, I always say this, imagine if you signed up for a gym and you didn't go to the gym and then blame the gym because you were fat. People do that.
Or if I'm spending $20,000 a month in my marketing budget, right? But I'm not calling back any of the leads or I'm not doing anything with them.
Yeah.
whose fault is it?
Yeah.
It's not the lead source. It's
Right.
my fault.
100%. And most people don't understand that. And the blame game is real. People always want to blame somebody else and they don't want to take accountability. And that's one thing that hinders growth. If you can't point your finger at yourself and say, I fucked up here, I didn't do my part here, I could have done this, you know, then that not only is freeing, but it also lets you be a little more honest with yourself, which helps you hit your goals. Because if you're not honest with yourself and you're not pointing the finger back at yourself when you need to be,
right,
you're holding yourself back.
Yeah, and I wish a lot of this stuff, like when I was younger as a realtor, like when I was always scared to pay for coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And now I look back of like what like the last 12 months, 2 years have done, like while I've paid for coaching for real estate investing,
Yeah.
has changed my life completely. I wish that I did it a lot sooner.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. My barber, Sam, shout out to Sam. Actually going to go see him in an hour or two. But my barber, Sam, I want to give him props because he started a Turo business, right? He bought a van and now he's working on another vehicle and he's renting them out on an app called Turo, which if you don't know, Turo is like Airbnb for cars. You can list your car for rent and other people will use them. Great insurance behind it, whatever. Well, Sam invested, it's about the same, 500 a month, or actually, no, I think it was like $5,000. I think it was closer to $5,000, but he spent a lot to get this coach. And every time I go get my hair cut, his business is doing better. He's still cutting hair, making good money doing that. But because he has this mentor, has this cash flowing asset building right before him that isn't taking a lot of time. And he got the cheat code, which was getting a mentor.
Right.
He paid this dude, which sometimes you got to pay to play, right? If you can't find a mentor, you sometimes have to pay to get one, which is a coach. But that coach will hold you accountable. That coach will show you everything you need to be successful. And I'm telling you, it's like, imagine trying to fly a plane without a pilot lesson, without somebody teaching you, you know, ridiculous.
Yeah. It will change your life for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to get into real estate and they don't know where to start, where would you, like, if they're looking for a brokerage to go work with, how would they get started and what should they look for?
I'm not the best person for maybe to give advice on like brokerages and stuff, like just because I'm so far checked out of like being a realtor.
Sure.
I mean, I can probably like refer some people here in San Diego or something like that, but I'm so far checked out of like being a realtor.
Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to get into real estate, where should they start? And that could be investing, that could be anywhere. I just know that typically if somebody wants to invest in real estate and they don't have money or connections to investors, they have to either go wholesale or they have to be an agent to build up cash to then go invest.
Sure.
That's what I think. But
Yeah,
what do you think?
I agree. I had to find someone and bring them deals in order to get equity interest.
Got it.
So if you wanted to find an investor and do the same thing and look for deals and try to help find deals, that's always added value to someone like me.
Yep.
So would they employ you? I don't know the answer to that. I think a lot of people like wouldn't take you seriously until you actually started bringing them deals and bringing them value.
Yep.
And then once you started bringing them deals, they're going to take you more seriously.
Yeah.
So with me, I brought ready to go opportunities to the guy who now is my business partner.
Yep.
And that was the reason he saw value in me, is because they were ready to go. Whereas like if someone was to just send you an address and text it to you or whatever, not bring real value,
Yep.
that would be a difference. But same thing with a realtor. Like if you wanted to get into real estate, there's so many realtors out there. Call your brother's uncle, sister's mother that's probably licensed, right?
Yeah.
Pick their brain a little bit. If you don't vibe with them, then I'm sure you can find someone else, you know, sitting at a bar somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. And or at an open house or something.
Exactly.
But trust your intuition too.
Yes.
Let's talk about intuition. Do you use your intuition a lot in business?
Always. Yeah. If I have something with my gut and something goes wrong, I will remember. Actually, I have a deal right now. So it got a little uncomfortable before we got into escrow. So we had to go non-contingent, which means no inspections.
Yep.
So our $20,000 deposit was hard. We didn't even see disclosures, like nothing. So we're going into this thing somewhat blind, other than the fact that our contractor walked in.
Yep.
And I was uncomfortable with it, not because of the house, but because of the way the verbiage was from the attorney, because it was a probate sale.
Which means, can you explain what that
Yeah.
means?
So when someone passes away and someone has to take over the trust and to divide the property interest for the trustees.
Yeah.
So, after we got into escrow, put our deposit in, we started finding out more shit was wrong with this house. And we had to go through, there's an HOA litigation. We had to get all these like architectural plans for the roof and stuff that we weren't budgeting. And this deal was tight.
Yep.
So I had a bad gut feeling when I initially got when we submitted the offer, well, when we got the contract from the attorney, because they basically were like, you can't go after us for anything if you find anything out once we're in contract.
Right.
So now we've just constantly been finding new shit out. Hopefully everything works out still, but it was like something like that where I knew in my gut
Yep.
that it could be a tricky deal. So, and then I've had other ones where I know that like going into it, I'll see the house and I'm like, this is like, I'm willing to take the risk on this.
Right. Yeah.
Like my gut feeling was like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what it is. I don't care if there's a slab leak. I don't care. Let's do this because it's a great location or whatever it was.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I think that people ignore their gut a lot because they think, whatever. And sometimes it can be, a false hit or something where you're really just scared and nervous to take that next step. But
sure.
If you trust your intuition, I think what people don't realize is, as we're sitting here talking, my subconscious mind is taking in everything about you, right? Your body language, the way you're standing, the way your tone is, things that my conscious mind isn't really reading. Mm-hmm. So if I get a subconscious vibe, which my subconscious says that you're good, right? There's something good. There's a good vibe about you, but I can't tell you why, but I know I feel good about you. Sure. But also there's sometimes where you're walking downtown and you're about to make a left and your gut is just like, don't do it.
Yeah.
And it's usually right. Mm-hmm. There's something over there. And I can't tell you what it is, but your brain somewhere is picking up on a pattern and it's taking in all this information. People, I don't think, realize how powerful the subconscious mind is.
I've had a few of these interviews where I've like talked to people and I didn't feel the best after leaving.
Yeah.
Where I like connected with them before and the conversation was fine before we got on. And then afterwards, it just like almost felt like, I'm looking to authentically connect with people.
Yeah.
Like for me, like personally, like I don't want to come on if it's just like, a high five and handshake and like walk away and like, let's just go reuse these for shorts and like for content, which is the purpose of it. But like real connections to me is more valuable than like all the other stuff that comes with it.
Yeah. So
recently I've had a few where I was just like, after the podcast, they were totally different people than when I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, it felt like a business deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, like it's business and I get it.
Yeah.
But like, we're here to like make connections, like real connections. It's
right.
deeper than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting, but definitely like intuition feeling of like, maybe I won't do that again.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, especially in the podcasting space, are trying to put on, they're trying to be, again, something they're not, right? Mm-hmm. They want to put on a show. And it's kind of hard for people to be themselves in an environment because all of a sudden they realize that, oh, there's a camera on me and now I have to sit a certain way. And I find myself doing it sometimes too. The best episodes come when I'm relaxed, when I'm chill, when I'm being myself, when we're able to have a flowing conversation. Mm-hmm. And when you look at like guys like Joe Rogan, the reason why his podcast is so successful is because he's just himself.
He doesn't give a fuck.
Give a fuck.
He's sitting there like he's having beers with you is what like, that's what I would hope, like with anyone that I would ever like go on with or interview with or whatever. Yeah. Like I want it to feel like we're sitting at a bar and we're just having a simple conversation. Yep. Right. And I think that comes off like true authenticity. Yeah. When it's like, shoved up and like people are like, have to be perfect and you get off and they're totally different. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Right. That wasn't you.
I know. And I think that's what people hate about like the big, the major news networks and the mainstream media. My favorite clip is the "fuck it, we'll do it live," where the guy's freaking out, getting mad, and but when you see news anchors, they go from this "hello tonight at 7," and then they get off and they're a totally different person. Like nobody
wants that.
Yeah. I mean, people used to, but it's like nobody wants to go to work in a suit. Nobody really cares if somebody shows up in a suit. Maybe in a certain type of deal, but
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a time and a place, but yeah, I think just being like people can tell when you're real whether you're in a suit and tie or not. Yeah. Yeah, I think like clothes, I just want to feel comfortable. Yeah. Most of the time, but I think people can see through authenticity regardless of what you're wearing. Like and with the anchors and all that. I mean, they're so scripted, it's different. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, also in San Diego, it's pretty chill. Like you can do business in flip flops and people don't care. Yes, exactly. That's I love that about out here because working in Boston in the financial district, I had to have a suit. I had to look, super professional every day. And there's something nice about wearing a suit. You feel good, you look good. Yeah. But after a while, especially like in the summer in Boston when it's humid and hot and Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both times when I got into real estate and when I was into title insurance, I mean, I was like suit and tie every single day.
Yeah.
But that was just my own insecurities of having to feel like I had to be ultra professional.
Yep.
But
yep.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, you're kind of doing what you see on TV and what you see people do. You think this is how you do it, and then you realize it's not. It's about human connection, and that's where the best real estate deals happen. And people might do a deal with you once if they trust you in the beginning, but if they feel like you're not being yourself, they're not going to continue to do business with you.
No. Yeah. And if they feel like you're, for anyone, like being shady or not doing the right thing or like whatever it is, but I think all of my connections, whatever business that I was in, has all been through like deeper relationships.
Right.
Like I don't like the one-off business deals. Like to me, sure, it's a paycheck, but it
Yep.
doesn't feel like there's no fulfillment in that.
Yeah.
Like what are you getting it for?
What fulfills you the most in business? Is it the relationships?
Yeah, I think so. So that's one thing that I get fulfilled from being able to do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
So I like to have the freedom to know that I can go off for a month or 2 months and go travel or buy whatever I want to buy or like do whatever I want to do.
Yep.
That to me is what had changed over the last few years of just like knowing that I have the ability to do that.
Right.
I don't have something that like in the business aspect, I do still like the deal, right?
Yeah.
But like making the connections with the people, because it always is typically sensitive situations when it comes to the real estate investing side. That is important, but a lot of times it is just a deal when it's like, vacant and there's no one involved and I'm just dealing with realtors.
Right.
So, ultimately it's just becoming financially free through real estate. I think that is where my fulfillment comes in from a business standpoint. And then the personal side is definitely just being able to travel and like do whatever we want to do when we want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a freedom too, especially like for me, when I was in my early 20s, even when I was making money, I was blowing so much money and I was so bad with money. I was always behind I was always behind, always. Yeah. You could have given me $1 million and I'd still be behind on rent and everything. I think that when you realize how to get out of survival mode, like if you grow up poor, right? Like I did not grow up with money and I had no financial skills going into my adulthood.
Same.
So when I'm growing up with limited money and limited knowledge on it, I'm always in survival mode. I'm blowing money. I'm not spending it correctly. I'm always late on bills. And when you figure out how to get past that, when you figure out how to get your bills paid and then you have a lot left over or even anything left over and you're no longer in survival mode, your decision-making changes. Something, you get to relax. It's like you get to take a nice deep breath. I remember the first 6 months of me kind of being out of that survival stage, probably the best time of my life. Because all of a sudden, all of this adrenaline and cortisol and all these stress hormones that constantly keep your body at, you're always stressed. When that goes away, now you start to see the world for what it really is. You get out of, call it the matrix, call it whatever you want, but you start to see things for what they are. And now you realize, oh, I've been making all of these terrible decisions because I was stressed and I was keeping myself down, And
you always take the power back. You put the power in your own place.
Yep.
I've found because of that I've allowed myself to not have to say yes to every client.
Yeah.
Or if I lose a client, I don't care.
Yep.
If I lose a deal, I don't care. I probably say no to more houses than I do yes.
Yep.
Because I want to be selective and I don't want to do what I don't want to do. Right. And I think once you come to a place where you can do that, that's the freeing moment. Because before that, when you're trying to grind and you're trying to like make it, paycheck to paycheck and pay your bills and do all that, you say yes to everything. You say yes to every client that's an asshole. You say yes to anything you can do to make a buck and do a deal. But at the end of the day, it took away from me. Like I felt like a shittier person after saying yes so many times to people who I hated. Right. And now I'm like, don't care. I love the people who I'm around because I can do that. Yeah. Right. So.
Yeah. It's amazing what'll happen when your bills are paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
And you have peace of mind.
Yeah. Well, Josh, where can people follow you?
So Instagram is Josh_Girodani, Giordani. It's hard to spell.
Cool.
And then Modern Mindset is the podcast, Spotify and Apple Music.
Sweet. So tell people a little bit about the podcast. It's kind of similar in terms of the focus. So everybody go listen to his podcast and follow him. All of his links to his podcast and social media are going to be in the show notes in the description. go follow him, send him a message, tell him you saw him on the podcast.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so it's similar to this. We just get, I want to talk with other entrepreneurs in the space, whether they're, I just did Dan Fulkerson with Battle Fulkerson.
Shout out to Dan.
Yeah, great dude. He's a big time attorney that's here in San Diego, and I've interviewed tons of different investors and different people in different spaces. Really, just how people think, and digging down deep and why we think the way we do from an entrepreneurial mindset, and building businesses and things like that. But it is, I don't want to say it's a promotion of people's business, because really it's like we're getting down and dirty into like how our minds think, just like what we did today.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, everybody go follow him. Listen to his podcast on Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm sure it's there. And as always, think bigger. Peace.